Sorry for leaving so suddenly on the last entry. We had an attack happen during the time and we lost another friend, Benson, to whatever that thing is. We couldn't see or hear anything other than a thin film of smoke we thought was from our fire. Branches snapping and the guttural sounds of its breath as people kept their weapons drawn in the forest. Campfire and small torches lining the camp were all we had for light when it lunged from the canopy of the trees onto Benson, and in a sickening second, Benson was no more. Just a mangled puddle of flesh, bone and blood. Just as fast as that creature showed up, it vanished back into the trees. Never even got a glimpse of the damn thing. We've been awake all night. No one could sleep, not after seeing what that thing did to Benson. Now we're all tired and it's the next day just a small area of red on the ground to prove that it wasn't a nightmare. This world isn't easy. The world was already brought to its knees with the war, and now we have to deal with all the problems that come in a nuclear wasteland. Radioactive materials, rad zones, that's from when the bombs left their marks. Even the lakes and rivers carry this invisible killer to us, and we'd never even know. Now we have to deal with whatever creature is hunting us in this forest. But I wonder if others had to deal with something similar. It's the middle of autumn, I'd say probably October, but we feel it getting colder night after night. The leaves are falling from the trees. It's a beautiful sight in such a gloomy world. But we need supplies. After much discussion in the early hours of the day, I and a few others decided to go into town to collect some supplies. The military men opted to stay and watch the camp, and I don't blame them. They watched their best friend become a pile of mush hours ago. Now he's buried in the forest, wherever they chose to bury him. The march into town shouldn't be too bad, as it's all downhill from our camp. Before we agreed to go into town, I've been watching the town from our lookout for a few days before the attack and noticed a truck had driven into the town but never left. I still see the truck near the general store. They're either gathering all supplies or they're dead. I think it's the latter, honestly, and I believe it's the work of this creature. Getting ready to leave, one of the survivors in my camp kept going on about how these mountains belonged to them, and how we needed to leave. I wondered if that had any connection to that creature, but before I could ask, they were shut up by one of the military guys. Now, don't get me wrong, I thought about leaving with everyone, but where would we go? To the city, where the radiation could still be in full effect? I can't go risking these people's lives. We all depend on each other, and we all saw that bomb go off. It is not worth the risk. It was about midday when we all headed out for the town. We were in a group of 5 people: myself, Jesse, Owen, Katie and Rick. Rick is a big goofball who always cracks a joke. Katie is his loving wife who tolerates the jokes. Owen is a milk truck driver who got caught up in my march into the mountains. I saved his life. I think he's coming along as he keeps spouting that he owes me his life. I just want him to live the rest of his days happy. Jesse is your average stoner. I'm shocked he's made it this far, but we wouldn't have survived without him. He's brought us some secret spots in the mountains nearby that have berries and other plants to eat. As we marched downhill, we heard what sounded to be screams coming from the other side of town. We all looked at each other with concern, but we nodded. Even though we all fear what's to come, we needed the supplies, so we decided to continue forward with extra caution. Getting closer to the town, we see what seems to be smoke enveloping the town in a grey haze. We all put on our masks as we didn't want to breathe in whatever was in the air. Pulling out a Geiger counter to check the area, we found nothing unusual, no spikes in radioactivity. Then Owens noticed the smoke surrounding a manhole in a darker layer. Owen's eyes met mine and we nodded. We approached with the crowbars in hand. and lifted the lid, but as we did, the smoke started to vanish from view and disappeared into the sewage tunnels. Owen and I looked at each other with confused and terrified looks, as everyone else asked what was happening and why the smoke was going away. We closed the manhole cover and walked everyone back to the edge of town. We had a path straight to camp. Everyone was stunned with what we just saw, and I told the group we could split up, and whoever wanted to go back to the camp was more than welcome to, and whoever wanted to stay, they could stay. I won't force anyone to do anything they don't want to. Katie was the only one who wanted to go back, and she kept begging her husband to go, even though he wanted to stay. Jessie volunteered to take her back to camp, and we watched as they walked into the trees, and we couldn't see them anymore. Just the lights cutting through the trees. The rest of us turned back to town and decided to set up in a shelter in the house closest to the hillside as we watched Jessie and Katie's lights reach the rest of the camp. I'm going to wrap up this entry for now, as we're starting to hear strange noises outside the house. We're turning off all the lights. Hopefully I'll be back soon to update everyone. So, I just wanted to apologise if I sounded off whilst recording this. I've got some issues with my legs and it's causing a little bit of discomfort and pain, so my voice probably sounds a little bit different. I might have messed up a couple of times. I hope you all enjoyed it anyway, and I hope you're all looking forward to part 3. I know I am. And again, I would like to say a big thank you to Cthulhu, my friend and the writer of the story. It's a really good story, mate. Goodbye, everyone.